Welcome back to my channel. This is Psychic Medium Raymond Guzman, and today I'm going to be doing a celebrity mediumship psychic combination of both psychic reading on our beautiful Aaliyah, who passed away in 2001. There's been a lot of questions that I've had since I started doing the celebrity psychic reading videos. I've had a lot of people approach me on Aaliyah and finding out exactly what happened. What is my take? There's a lot of people on the internet right now that have given their opinions and or their insight rather of what they see and what they feel. So I will start off by describing a little bit, going into a few, months prior to to her passing, what Aaliyah's state of mind was, what I'm picking up with the family, and what was going on in the record company that she was with, okay? So the first thing that I'm starting to see when I tune into Aaliyah's soul is that she was going through a period of rebirth. And what this means is that she was vision-wise, she was no longer just Aaliyah the singer, the writer. She was going into movies, and we saw that with Queen of the Damned and Romeo Must Die, some of the other things that she would have been involved in. We saw her in small movie roles, and then Queen of the Damned, of course, was released after her passing, but it was a movie that she had filmed before her passing. And so she was going into movies. She had a lot of people approaching her. She was the it girl, and she was very much likable, approachable, and marketable. So these are good factors to take into consideration when we look at the career of Aaliyah. And she started fairly young with R. Kelly. Okay, so she was managed and she went into this career at a very young age, and she knew what she wanted to do. But months prior to this, I feel like there was a lot of people. What I'm getting is that there was a lot of people that were coming to Aaliyah, and not going through perhaps her manager, or which is I believe was her father or anybody else in her company. They were going directly to Aaliyah, talking about how they would like to collaborate and do certain other movie roles, and getting her into ad campaigns for fashion, for certain models. Because at one point, I believe she did do some modeling for, I believe, Tommy Hilfiger, and some other designers. But she was very marketable, like I said. And when a person is very marketable, like Aaliyah was, many people want to get their hands on that person so they can get money and make money off of her. So yes, and what I also see is like she had two decisions to make in her life prior to this the her passing. There was two decisions that she was going through that she was going into almost blindly. She didn't really know which of these two directions to go. I feel like this was in relation to her music career, and also the acting career. I feel like she was really liking the fact of being an actress. She liked going into acting, and I feel like this was going to, what I see is that her path here, had she still been here, would have gone more into a direction eventually in movie roles. Because she had a huge success. The movie Queen of the Dam was a huge box office hit. And people liked Aaliyah, like I said. So I feel like there was two decisions. What I feel like is like she didn't have a choice. Like she was almost like her hands were tied. When it came down closer to her passing, she followed a lot of orders from these execs that were managing her career. The people at Virgin Records and Black Ground Entertainment Music Group. So it feels like she had her hands tied. She also had she was engaged to Damon Dash, I believe that was his name. And so she wanted to she had plans on kind of taking some time off and not being overworked like they were overworking her, and actually take some time off to start her own family, to kind of still juggle everything around, but she wanted to get married eventually. That was the plan. And but unfortunately she didn't get that far. Um, but like I said, I feel like she was in a state of mind where her hands were tied regarding what direction her career was going in, even though it was going to be a success regardless if she stayed in the music business, or she was dividing her time equally, to acting and doing music. So let me go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so a lot of people have really questioned, Damon Dash. Damon Dash, and they also have speculated, that maybe he was responsible for her passing. And I will be the first, to say that no, I don't feel that he was responsible. I see a lot of things at the soul level with Damon. Damon is a very loyal person. When it comes to Aaliyah, he really did love Aaliyah. I don't feel, though, Aaliyah loved him the way that he wanted her to love him. So I feel like Aaliyah had her mind, and this could be going back to what I was saying, her hands were tied in two directions as well. Like she had other suitors, people, men who liked her and wanted to maybe start, a relationship, regardless of the fact that she was in a relationship with Damon. People who would have had, interest in her. One of them would be the producer, which was Aaliyah's friend Timbaland, and I don't have him pictured here, but his feelings go beyond brother sister type for Aaliyah when I tune into his soul. So he definitely did have feelings for Aaliyah, but I feel like Aaliyah only saw him maybe as like a brother, but didn't want to hurt Timbaland at all. But when it comes to Damon Dash, she has a good soul. And he even said on one of the interviews, and I have it here, in quotes, what he said. He felt responsible almost in a way. He says that if he would have been there with Aaliyah, that basically he would have convinced her to wait the second day or until her actual chartered plane, came and got her in the group that she was with, her team, rather than going into this plane that was smaller and overweight, with had a lot of weight. It was more than the weight capacity that the plane could hold. And so I feel like even now when I tune into Damon, he still thinks about Aaliyah, and um, he still feels, kind of remorseful and responsible in many ways. When you go through grieving and you go through loss, we sometimes don't realize how bad it is. But I feel like that was his true love. He had plans, to start a family with her and to, just have a union together. But when an artist is so young and at the peak of her career, she was not even at the peak. She was in the very beginning of her career, starting to go towards the peak, of her career. A lot of the record companies don't want the artist to get affiliated with anyone on a personal level because, again, this can cause conflict. This can cause, them to deviate, the artist to deviate away from making money to the record company, not being able to produce, hits, albums, interviews, basically everything that a company would, benefit and make money off of a person. But Damon, he still thinks of Aaliyah, and I feel like her soul does visit him and does give him signs, that of her presence, that she is there. Um, what is so interesting when I tune into this situation, I feel like there was arguments between Damon and Aaliyah. These were disagreements. I feel like he was very controlling of her. I get that he wanted her to really kind of cut back on a lot of things, her image, because Aaliyah, at the end, when she first started her career, she was a little less sexy, and then at the end, she was going more for a more refined look, more polished, more marketable. And I feel like Damon, kind of, liked that, but at the same time, he also felt like a lot of people, a lot of men that were in the same type of industry as her, in the music industry, these were other rappers, other people in music, had feelings for Aaliyah, and they had come forward already to her, and maybe had, told her exactly, what they were feeling, what was on their mind, and this kind of put their relationship in a tough situation, which, it was just like she felt like her back was against a wall. She didn't want to hurt anyone. That was never her intentions, to hurt anyone emotionally, spiritually, or even mentally. And I get that this was like a battle between forces of good and evil when it comes into Aaliyah's soul. So I feel like there was, good forces protecting her, good people. This would have been Earth Angels, people that were surrounding her, her parents, for example, um, Damon, and then other people, that were around her, like Timbaland, Missy Elliott. These were, her core soul family here on Earth. And I feel like they were protecting her against the, and advising her what they would see and feel from Virgin Records and Blackground Entertainment, her record label, and then the Virgin Records, who was the distributor for Aaliyah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get into the next slide here. Now, Hankerson was Aaliyah's manager until 1995, and then her father, Michael Alton, took over as manager, but she remained on his label, Blackground Records. I kept saying Blackground Entertainment, but Blackground Records until her death on August 25th. Um, and they also managed, Tony Braxton, R. Kelly. So when I tune into Hankerson, a lot of people have speculated that yes, even though he was Aaliyah's uncle, that he was the one, or the hand, the guiding force behind Aaliyah's passing. And this was a murder. It was a murder, not actual, a death by a freak accident, by like the airplane, the way it was thought to be. So when I tune into Hankerson's soul, I feel like he is a person that is, how should I say this? He does like money. He's very much motivated. Some people would call it greediness. Some people would call it ambition, and ego. And I feel like when it came to Aaliyah's career, he was very limited on what he could do. But never once do I feel like, and when I tune into his soul, that he would be the guiding force behind her passing. And he didn't want that. He had a lot of faith in Aaliyah, and he knew that Aaliyah was going to prosper. So a lot of speculation has been put on Hankerson for many years, because again, he's had a lot of scandals. Timbaland sued him, I believe, sued Blackground Records, because when he wanted to switch from artist to producer, it was a big scandal and whatnot. So that became public, and Blackground Entertainment actually in 2012 was sold to another company, and they basically changed, had like a deal where they changed over, and so it's no longer now known as Blackground Records. But the whole thing that I get from Hankerson is that he wasn't the guiding force behind her passing. He was a very deceptive person, and I keep saying he is, but I'm talking in past tense because I'm referring to what went down when Aaliyah, was going through. But I'm getting the information as I'm going. But with Hankerson, he was a very conflicted individual. I feel like he was very controlling of his artists that were on his label. Was also kind of cheap when paying them. I feel like the profits and the royalties that were given were much less to certain artists, and more to certain people. So I definitely feel like there was a lot of issues. There was not organization within the company. I feel like everything was disorganized, and there was no strategic planning when it came to managing artists. So like a lot of artists didn't get the proper promotions. They didn't get the proper um, support system that a typical large record company would give their artists. So what I see is that there's just a lot of conflict with this whole thing with Hankerson, but I don't see that he would be the one that was the guiding force behind her passing. I get that he, was devastated when Aaliyah, passed in that manner that she did. And I know a lot of people are probably saying, well, he kept all of um, her rights to her music. Yes, the company did. But I'm going to explain what I see from a spiritual perspective. So I'm going to go into the next slide. Okay, so Luis Morales III was the guy that was flying the plane. He was the pilot that was flying the plane. according to what, you know, you can see, I'm not going to read everything that I put here on the screen that I you got from an article there. I'm going to tell you what I see about Morales and the energy that I get. Now, I don't know exactly what um, Morales was, into prior to this, being in the pilot, but what I see was there definitely was a lot of drugs. I feel like he was part of like a drug cartel, and he does have the energy signature of someone who is like a killer. And I get that he was a very conflicted man, not close to his family. I get that he was just had a lot of emotional problems and issues, but I get like this coldness from him. When you look into the soul of a person, the eyes, and you see like just a empty void there, I feel like he was void of emotions, and he was just void of humanity. So he was very heartless. I mean, he didn't have like empathy or anything. And what I get is that there was two men that wanted to take Aaliyah out, and this guy was used as a tool, as a puppet to carry this out. This guy, Luis Morales, did not know, even though the report says that he knew that the plane was overweight. He did not know. He went into this blindly. He was offered, what I got spiritually from Spirit is that he was, approached and told that they would pay him a substantial amount of money to transport Aaliyah from the Bahamas to Opa-locka Airport, wherever, in Florida that she was flying to. This guy, they recruited him because he was in need of the money, and they knew that they could use him. They promised to pay him. I feel like he got half of payment up front, and this was done all behind the scenes. This wasn't something that was made, news, obviously. But he was given money, half of it up front, and the other half upon completing the trip, the flight, which was never going to happen because they had somebody else already go in, add more weight to Aaliyah's plane. So again, he was used like a puppet, and they blamed him for the plane crash. But again, I do not see that this is what would have happened. And I also get conversations when I'm tuning into the souls of those who passed, that they were, Aaliyah's assistant, hairdressers, and the wardrobe, the ones that were responsible, that were there, and her bodyguard were also convincing Aaliyah that it was a bad idea to go on the plane, but they were pressured by the record company to go sooner. But again, this was all a setup. It was a plan. Somebody wanted Aaliyah's head served on a platter. Basically, they were coming for her. It was murder, and I can't keep repeating that more than once, because I would keep saying it until I'm blue on the face. But it was murder, and like I said, Aaliyah was very intuitive, so she knew prior to her passing, she had premonitions, she had dreams, and she even said that she had dreams. One where she was like floating or flying, and somebody was chasing her. So she knew what was, and this is a little off topic, the one that did survive, her bodyguard that survived the crash, when they took him by EMS towards the hospital, or they were there treating him, he passed already. He passed, that same day or the day after. But um, when he was there, he had said something. He said he was checking. He was very concerned about Aaliyah and if she was okay. He was very concerned. So it makes me believe also that there was like an argument that did go off in the plane once they loaded the plane. And I feel that this argument was about, trying to get off of the plane. They were like loaded into the plane, but they wanted to get off of it immediately. And this guy Morales told him, no, it's okay, it's okay. And I feel like there was pressure to meet deadlines from the record company. So they kept putting a lot of this pressure for them to go ahead of time. But Aaliyah didn't want to go, and a lot of the people on her team did not want to go either. So let's get to the next slide here. Okay, Black Hawk International Airways was the company that chartered the plane that which Aaliyah, and the owner of that was Gilbert Chacon. He was the head of Black Hawk. So what I get intuitively, and this guy was not a clean person. He was charged with fraud and other things, as you can see here. I'm not going to read everything, but you can read it. But he pleaded guilty in 1993 to bankruptcy fraud. He was paid by a record company, by the top execs, to eliminate Aaliyah by using one of his pilots. You know, having someone that was be like a pilot, hiring them to do this whole transition. It's a big, big mess when you come about it. Um, so let me get to the next slide. Okay, when we look at this, Aaliyah was signed to back. I can't even speak right now. Um, she was signed to Hankerson's record company, right? Okay, so she was signed to that, but she was also part of Virgin label. Okay, Virgin label. Do you know how big Virgin label is? Virgin Records. This is a huge label. Okay, and there was a lot of scandals around the time after Aaliyah passed and before that she passed with a lot of artists. I did give a couple of snapshots here, and I'm not going to read them, of scandals and lawsuits that this company has had. After Aaliyah's passing, Hankerson decided to move the company, the distributing company, over to Universal Records, like Motown Records Group. So there was like a change in ownership. They were moving, and what I get intuitively was that Virgin was trying to see if they could sign Aaliyah and keep her there. But Aaliyah was loyal to Blackground, and I feel like she wanted to leave. She was going to, she knew about it. I feel like this was where she was kind of tied into two directions. Even though he moved, and I believe it was around November, December of 2001 to Hankerson, that is, he changed company distributors and he was moving to Universal Group. What I get is that this was done prior to Aaliyah's passing, like a year before. So people in Virgin Records they knew what Hankerson was doing. And all I will say is that Aaliyah paid the price. Again, because Virgin knew that Aaliyah was going to rise into this big star. She was already a star, but she was going to be generating all this income and stuff, and they wanted to secure a deal with her. They knew what was up with Hankerson and what he was going to do. So what I get was that this was, and at the end of her passing, even Aaliyah's parents sued Virgin Records for negligence. So Aaliyah's parents also knew that this record company had some responsibility into her passing. So while everybody has, blamed her uncle, has blamed, her record company that she was with, they got it wrong. What I get, it was definitely the company, and I'm not going to be, saying the name. But what you see here, like I just said, it's a huge company, and they knew it was up. There was a lot of scandals that were already surrounding this company. I get that there was definitely foul play here, and I get this is a Caucasian male working with another Caucasian male from that company. And basically, it was all plotted, it was all premeditated, everything was planned out. A lot of these people knew that Aaliyah didn't have a good support system right around the time that this thing happened. They knew her every move. They knew it because most of the time Aaliyah's parents would travel with her to a lot of these things, so they knew exactly where she was going. They knew her moves, where she was going to be. They knew who to contact. She was being monitored, even on the island that she was she was shooting this video, on. So every move of her was being reported back to the people who paid to take her out. So this was definitely not a freak accident that a plane is overweight. Yes, the plane was overweight. Yes, it did crash upon takeoff, but this was not, I repeat, this was not due to that. It was due to that, yes, but why did why was it over? Who told, who paid a specific person to put more weight onto the plane? That is the main question here. Who did that? And again, I won't say names, but I will tell you that it had to do with a large record company. So that is my reading for Aaliyah. What I get regarding her passing. Again, people may, not agree here with me. Please respect my view. I'm respecting, everybody's opinion, but this is what I'm getting from Spirit. And like I said, there's going to always be speculation. There's going to always be different kind of stories around her passing. But one theme that stands out and that everybody, mostly everybody feels, up to this day, I would say at least 80 or 90% people feel that she was taken out before her prime, and she was taken out by powerful people in the music industry that wanted her gone because of jealousy and because they knew that an African American artist, a beautiful young African American artist, was going to really rise up in the ranks and kind of, outdo their talent and their artists that were not African American. And so a lot of people will be saying, where's the motive for racism? I'll leave that up to you to kind of think in your mind and kind of process it. But they didn't really care about, I'll just say they really didn't care about the race that Aaliyah was. And yes, some people did. What it was all really about was making money off of Aaliyah. And ultimately, who was going to have her with them to share in that money and profit from that. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Blessings and love and light to each and every one of you. Thank you so much.